Dia div, agus falchiga di, terraincogweirdo macharchas. Hello and welcome to Terraincogweirdo, my friends. Auntie Angie is in rare form today with her Christmas Buckethead shirt on. I decided to call him Bucket Claus because he gives away presents at every show. Yes, Buckethead so much. Merry Christmas, Bucket. Okay, so I'm going to change it up today. I'm going to read Appendix number 1, the writing of the story that wrote itself, to you, instead of been doing those audios with the beautiful artwork by my friend Eddie Rifkind. Aren't they amazing? Isn't his art amazing? But I just thought I'd change it up, and since this is a very personal note about what happens to me when I write stories, I thought I'd just read it to you instead of doing the audio. So here we go. Appendix 1, the writing of the story that wrote itself, by A.M. Melfa. For me, writing fiction is a sustained moment of apophenia. The moment lasts as long as it takes me to write the story. If the story is not talking to me constantly, then it is not a story that is going to get written. And if I am not making seemingly magical connections, then sorry story, I will not be able to tell you. One day, I was thinking about the insane mountain of coincidences that grew into my first fiction novel, Down as Made Down. By the way, you can get that on Kindle for free. There's a link in my Terra Incogweirdo description if you would like to get that. So, one day I was thinking about the insane amount of coincidences that grew into my first fiction novel, Down as Made Down. Suddenly, the story that wrote itself exploded into my brain, and I do mean that. It was fully there. Okay. Why not write a story about how it feels to me to write a story? The story simply takes over me, and my job is to take accurate dictation without allowing my personality to get in the way too much. I wanted to explore this notion from the point of view of the story. And as anyone who reads my work quickly discovers, I am obsessed with creating characters out of inanimate objects, ideas, and other amorphous aspects of existence. Naming characters is perhaps my favorite part of writing. I have always been in love with naming things. When I was very young, not content to have only pets to name, I took to christening inanimate objects such as my shoes individually. I could often be heard wandering around the house asking my mother if she'd seen Connor or Seamus, respectively, my left and right green striped sneakers. Yes, I was and still am that weird child. Like to say I'm an adult, but I think the get up gives me away. I did not select the name Eustace. No, indeed. It was a story that wrote itself that selected the name Eustace. As I began to write, there it was, idling in a lounge chair at the forefront of my brain. The story informed me that Eustace needed to be related to British royalty, and so I selected the surname of Grey only because I had watched a documentary regarding the Lady Jane Grey the day before. Okay, get ready. It was while I was Googling the name for correct spelling, I was 99.9% sure that it was Grey, not Gray, but it is a writer's job to confirm these details. So, while I was Googling the name for correct spelling, I noticed a link to a poem entitled Sir Eustace Grey by the British poet George Crabbe. I stopped for a moment to reflect before opening the link. As described, the story that wrote itself exploded, almost fully formed in my mind, and so I already knew that my main character was destined to become imprisoned within a story, perhaps the story he was writing, or even another story. Wouldn't it be funny, I thought? No, wouldn't it be apophenic if this poem by George Crabbe magically suited the purposes of my plot? I was already getting excited to see that the universe was winding up to have a play date with my brain in the writing of this story. Oh yes, the story that wrote itself was definitely talking to me now. After I read the poem, I had to laugh. Of course, it suited my literary purpose perfectly. And suddenly I saw that I could use the dementing ramblings of Sir Eustace as a device by which to torment and eventually imprison my Eustace. Also, FYI, I had already chosen George as Eustace's father's name before I came upon the poem by George Crabbe. Coincidence? Pshaw. Not in my world, kids. Not in Terra Incogweirdo, where para is normal. And thus, dear reader, you can see how writing, for me, is an act of magical thinking. When I write, I feel like I'm strapped to an unstoppable roller coaster, and I better hold on with my fingernails, well, maybe hold on with my teeth, because I need my hands for typing, until the ride comes to a full stop. When my story informs me, it has requirements. All I need do is trust apophenia to deliver the exact need. Kids, it works every time. I don't know why. It's crazy. I set out to write a story about the seeming magical coincidences that surround my writing, and while doing so, I became immersed once again in that magic. Thus, the story that wrote itself became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The story, thee to its friends, story to the rest of us riffraff, is the undisputed maestro. And I am merely the waiter delivering the next literary course for your consideration. After you tuck in, it's my hope that you pull away from my table sated, yet ready for the next offering. Yes, dear reader, please build up your appetite, as I very much look forward to seeing you at the next soiree. Okay, the end of Appendix I. So, I know that on Belief Hole, and my dear beloved Purple Mommy can probably comment below what exact episode it was, but I know that Belief Hole talked once about writers who believe that they get their inspiration like downloaded into their brain, because, dude, that is how it feels for me. And I wrote 2 full books of poetry that I just felt like I was taking dictation, and it was just like as fast as I could write it. I mean, I wrote for 3 months, and I wrote hundreds of poems. It was insane. And you know, I write poetry a little bit now, but it was like it took over me for this period of time. And also the fiction book I wrote, Down as Made Down, which is a story of a spirit that I picked up while viewing a house for sale in Churchville, Maryland. She's stuck in my body long enough that I got to hear her story. So not only am I communicating a story of a spirit, but the whole story just, it moved so fast, and it was like all I could do to keep up. I could not type fast enough, and I typed like a house on fire for, I think it took me 7 or 8 months, and I wrote a book over 500 pages long. I mean, I'm saying I wrote it, but again, dude, I was like, I essentially was a scribe. There's, that's all I could say. And so Belief Hole did a show where they at least they talked in part about writers who, who have this experience. And I cannot remember which writers they were talking about in their podcast, but I know it to be a thing. So I looked it up, and a couple of the names I got of writers who experienced this weird apophenic thing in writing, this download or this channel, are the likes of William Blake, Leo Tolstoy, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Emily Dickinson, and Maya Angelou. Well, I've read all of them, and their works are collectively amazing. I like some of them more than others, but whatever. I'm not trying to lump myself in with their talent, okay? I'm merely trying to make the point that we all have experienced, and many writers, and please comment below if you're one of them, have experienced this feeling of having stories, whole stories, just downloaded into your brain. Okay, well, so that's going to be it for me today, guys. So thanks for joining me today. And you know what? Thanks for bringing your light, Incogweirdos. Look, the light. Oh! You rule. Oh my God, I'm blind. I will see you or not next time on Terra Incogweirdo, the land where para is normal. Slan go fall, Incogweirdos. I love you.